So we've talked about this a little bit already, but what are, and Heather, you as a wife, I feel like you definitely have a perspective that we don't have, and a lot of this is really the theme of this, is that difference between men and women and our understanding of sex and how it plays out in our life. But what are some legitimate reasons you guys have both seen or had for not having sex?
So some that just are no-brainers are, illness, injury,
Right.
Sleep deprivation.
9 months pregnant.
Okay, 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just after having a baby, that's
Right.
6 to 8.
Yeah, that's medical.
That I know,
Yeah.
and that's important. Yeah. But even when you look at, and a woman on her period, and that's biblical. And
Wow.
I know, just throwing it out there. And but really sleep deprivation, that one is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like sometimes that is going to be a make or break when it comes to whether or not you're going to have great sex or whether you're going to have disappointing sex. And so that, I think, could be a really good reason. Again, looking at the way that you communicate that is another huge thing in a marriage.
Okay, I have another spur of the moment question. Does every sexual experience between a husband and wife need to be like mind blowing, like we crushed it, knocked it out of the park? Or is it okay that sometimes it's not that way? Like, I think that's a question a lot of people who are engaged, who are single, and then people who are married too. Is like, is it always going to be this? Like, does it need to keep getting better every single year, or is it just not the same every time?
I don't understand the question. No, I'm just kidding.
She is quoting Mr. and Mrs. Smith right now.
So that is a great question. And again, that's going to depend on what's going on in your world. Because one of the things too, I mean, you can be having great sex in your marriage and then something happens that causes stress in your marriage. And man, it's going to hit your sex life like nothing else. And you're going to think, okay, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing all the same things. I don't seem to be able to connect. What is this? And it's stress. I mean, stress is totally a sex killer, but it's just one of those things that, again, you have to not take it just for the way that sex is playing out in your relationship, but okay, what's going on in my world? What's going on in their world? What else could be a variable that's playing a role in our ability to connect?
I think we have to be aware of our expectations, because I think if we go into it with that expectation of it's always got to be getting bigger and better and greater, and like no human couple can live up to that. I mean, sooner or later you're going to hit a ceiling of, we're not able to always make it bigger and better. But that's really the beauty of how God designed our brain to work, that in a committed, monogamous relationship where there's healthy intimacy, I believe we can actually have you might call it a lesser experience or a very normal experience, but receive the same kind of pleasure hit. The other thing that this kind of exposes is if we've become focused on our own experience, again, we're misusing the purpose of sex, because sex in a marriage is meant to be about connection and bonding and fun in mutuality. And usually when you ask that kind of question, Trevor, or I hear other people do, what they're intending is for me first. Is it getting better and better for me? It's like, well, that's kind of the wrong purpose or outcome of sex. And going back to the original question of like, when is it okay to say no? I think in the nature of what we deal with, if someone's desire for sex is fueled by their addiction and because they've been watching porn and now they want an outlet, like that's not healthy. If it's just all about what we said earlier, just kind of a magical way to fix the relationship and ignore our problems, it may actually be better to withhold for a while and deal with the situation rather than diving in and hoping sex will fix it. So I think another reason for no is if a person doesn't feel like they trust you right now. If there's some trust issues, sex and intimacy are really hard to engage in if there's some trust issues. And that, I hope for listeners, underscores why it is so important we deal with our sexual baggage, because nothing creates trust issues in a marriage faster than our sexual brokenness and the struggles we have. So we've got to deal with those things so that there's a healthy level of trust that can lead into intimacy.
And then anybody who's in that situation, there's an episode that we recorded. It's episode 57. We recorded it with Bob and Rebecca Vandermeer, and the episode is Sex During Recovery. So if you're in that situation and wanting some more insight on that, feel free to go back and listen to that episode.